Welcome back to another episode of Grizzly True Crime. My name is Gisela K, and today we're getting right into it. We're looking at the full 47-page medical examiner's report relating to Brian Laundrie, because that's what we do here. We look at the whole thing. So I'm just going to dive right into it. No intro necessary today. Let's not waste any time. I'm like, what, when this came out? Oh my word. Okay, so I put it on the screen so that you can read along with me. District 12 Medical Examiner 21-02238 Brian Laundrie. Medical Examiner Reports. Included in this packet are the following Medical Examiner Reports and related documents. 1. Investigator Case Summary, 5 pages. Medical Examiner Report of Scene Investigation, 4 pages. Medical Examiner Report of Autopsy, 6 pages. 4. The Consultation Report of Osteological Examination, 23 pages. 5. Laboratory Report, DNA Analysis, 5 pages. And the Consultation, Odontologic Forensic Identification Report, 2 pages. Note: Florida Statute 46135 explicitly prohibits the release of autopsy photos by the medical examiner as part of routine public records requests. Accordingly, the photographs that were part of the original report of osteological examination, pages 6 to 11, have been redacted. Oh, okay. So let's keep it going. If you hear my mouse scroll, it's all good. It's part of the ambiance. Okay, case summary, case number 21-02238. Decedent, Brian Christopher Laundrie. Date of death, found October 20th, 2021. Ooh, we'll remember the day, right? Medical examiner, Wilson A. Broussard, Jr., MD. Investigator, Ronald L. Busby, Jr. County, Sarasota. Age, 23. Race, white, and sex, male. Or, no thank you. Related cases. Name, case number. On October 20th, 2021, at 9:30 hours, I was contacted by Sergeant Fortuno from the Northport Police Department in reference to apparent human skeletal remains. The remains were discovered in the Carlton Reserve, north of Mayakahatchee Creek Environmental Park, located at 6968 Reisterstown Road in Northport. So it was in the Big Slough Preserve. Sergeant Fortuno advised that a massive search had been ongoing in the Carlton Reserve for several weeks by multiple agencies for 23-year-old white male Brian Christopher Laundrie, date of birth November 18, 1997. On October 20th, 2021, at approximately 8:20 hours, search groups found a backpack and shoes that were identified as belonging to Brian Laundrie. The personal belongings were surrounded by apparent skeletal human remains that were scattered on top of the dirt ground. I was informed that the evidence response team from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, along with cadaver and electronic detection dogs, were responding to the scene to assist in locating additional human remains. I contacted Dr. Vega, Dr. Broussard, Director Winterhalter, and Chief Investigator Andrus, and provided them with above information. At 12:45 hours, same date, I was contacted by Detective Keller from the Northport Police Department, who advised that he was the lead investigator of their agency. The apparent human remains were located at latitude 27127698 north and longitude 82.192652 west, which was within the Carlton Reserve. At 1400 hours, same date, Director Winterhalter contacted forensic odontologist Dr. Nancy Havens and requested forensic odontology consultation for October 21st, 2021. At 16:05 hours, same date, I was contacted by Sergeant Fortuno, who advised that they were requesting the Office of the District 12 Medical Examiner to respond. At 16:20 hours, same date, Chief Investigator Andrus contacted Dr. Heather Walsh-Haney and Dr. Miranda Kles and requested an anthropology consultation to assist with the examination of the skeletal remains at the scene the following day. At 1700 hours, same date, Chief Investigator Andrus, Investigator Kavanagh, Investigator Loveridge, and I arrived on scene. We were transported to the location of the apparent human remains. Upon arrival, we met with Kerry Harvey, team leader of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, evidence response team, who walked us through the scene. Team leader Harvey informed us that the search area was previously under approximately 3 feet of water, which was indicated by the water line upon the surrounding trees. The search area was divided into the main scene and a secondary scene. Both scenes were marked with orange flags that indicated apparent human and/or animal remains, and red flags that indicated personal effects. I photographed the scene as I observed with a Nikon digital camera. Shout out to Nikon. When I was doing some photography, I was a Nikon lady. And there's a whole battle between Nikon and Canon, but I digress. Moving along, at 7:30 hours, same date, Dr. Vega and Dr. Prasad arrived on scene and examined the skeletal remains. Please refer to Dr. Prasad's report for further details. The scene was north of the Mayakahachi Creek Environmental Park, within the Carlton Reserve, and west of the Big Slough Canal. The scene included trees and overgrown vegetation that had total exposure to the outside elements. A winding, walking, and vehicular trail ran in a north or northeast direction up to and through the scene. The skeletal remains and personal effects were in plain sight and scattered upon the dirt ground. Amazing they didn't find it. I know they said the 3 feet of water, I'm just saying. The main scene contained human remains that included a right and left scapula, a right humerus, a left and right femur, 2 tibias, 2 fibulas, 2 clavicles, 2 pelvi, 1 right ulna, 1 right radius, a sacrum, multiple ribs, multiple skull fragments, along with the maxilla and mandible, and approximately 25 vertebrae, cervical, thoracic, and lumbar. Dr. Broussard confirmed the remains in this area to be human. There's a lot more than we found. We always just knew about this partial skull, right? There's a whole bunch going on here. Whoa. The main scene also contained personal effects that included, and finally, here we hear about the clothes, a pair of green shorts with a green belt, 2 slip-on shoes, a backpack with unknown contents, a white metal ring, and an unknown type of handgun, snub-nose revolver. The secondary scene contains skeletal animal remains, a handwritten half note, and a hat with the logo Moab Coffee Roasters. Oh, I'm taking it all in. This is a live reaction video. I was informed that a dry bag was located that contained a journal, along with a wooden box that contained a small notebook and a photographic picture of Brian Laundrie. I was advised that there were additional photographic pictures, but the contents were undisclosed to me at the time. At 2000 hours, same date, all personnel from the District 12 medical examiner cleared the scene. Investigator Cabinet transported skeletal human remains that included cranial bones, maxilla with existing teeth, and mandible with existing teeth that were processed by the evidence response team of the Federal Bureau of Investigation to the Sarasota Medical Examiner facility for potential identification purposes. The remains were logged into the morgue at 22:21 hours, same date. On October 21st, 2021, at 800 hours, Director Winterhalter met Dr. Nancy Havens, forensic odontologist, at the Sarasota Medical Examiner facility to assist with the forensic odontology consultation. Please refer to her report for additional details. At 9:06 hours, same date, I contacted Dr. Udishi from Sayville Family Dentistry in New York and requested the decedent's dental records or radiographs along with corresponding physician notes. I learned that agents with the FBI were able to obtain the dental records or radiographs on behalf of the District 12 medical examiner. Upon receiving the records or radiographs, they were provided to Dr. Havens. At 10:10 hours, same date, I was contacted by Detective Keller, who advised that they believed they located additional bones from the decedent's left arm bones within the main scene. At 1300 hours, same date, Chief Investigator Andrus, Investigator Walker, and I arrived on scene. At 1300 hours, same date, forensic anthropologist Dr. Walsh Haney and Dr. Kles arrived on scene, at which time they were walked through the scene. At 1500 hours, same date, Dr. Broussard arrived on the scene. We made contact with Kerry Harvey, team leader of the FBI evidence response team, who advised that the main scene was divided into 3 zones, which were designated for sifting purposes in search for additional human remains. Zone 1 contained remains of the upper torso, upper extremities and head. Zone 2 contained remains of the lower vertebrae and sacrum. Zone 3 contained remains of left arm bones. A systematic search was conducted by all agencies involved for the recovery of additional human remains. At 16:05 hours, same date, I contacted Brasota Services and requested removal of the remains from the scene to the Sarasota Medical Examiner facility. At 16:20 hours, same date, I was contacted by Director Winterhalter, who advised that forensic odontologist Dr. Nancy Havens positively identified the human remains as 23-year-old white male Brian Christopher Laundrie, date of birth November 18, 1997, through the comparison of the antemortem dental radiographs and dentition, including post-mortem radiographs to known dental records. At 16:25 hours, same date, a projectile was located near Zone 2 of the main scene by the evidence recovery team of the FBI by utilizing a metal detector. All additional human and animal remains. I wonder why did the animal die there, you know what I mean? All additional human and animal remains, along with personal effects, were collected and inventoried on site by the evidence response team and of the FBI. Please refer to the reports from the Northport Police Department, reference case number 21054011, and the FBI reference case number 70ADN3494764 for further details. The FBI case represented a crime on government reservation and crime of violence that involved the decedent. Okay. At 1700 hours, same date, forensic anthropologist Dr. Walsh Haney and Dr. Clares cleared the scene. All right. And then at 1745 hours, same date, Dr. Broussard, Chief Investigator Andrus, Investigator Walker, and I cleared the scene. Dr. Broussard advised that a skeletal examination and inventory would be scheduled for October 22nd, 2021. On October 22nd, 2021 at 900 hours, Dr. Vega, Dr. Broussard, Dr. Clares, Investigator Rogers, and I met with Dr. Walsh Haney at the Sarasota Medical Examiner facility to conduct an inventory and photograph the skeletal remains with a Nikon digital camera. Please refer to Dr. Walsh Haney's report for further details. Dr. Walsh Haney transported the remains to the office of the District 20 Medical Examiner for anthropological examination and reconstruction. Detective Keller and lead agent Bush, FBI, arrived at the Sarasota Medical Examiner facility. Detective Keller reported that the decedent's sister informed that the decedent was right-hand dominant. Detective Keller informed us that the decedent was last known alive on September 13th. September 13th. Okay, I'm just thinking about the timeline again. 2021, when he left his residence to go hiking in the Colton Reserve, but the decedent did not return home. On September 14, 2021, the decedent's vehicle was located in the parking lot of the Mayakahachi Creek Environmental Park. On September 17th, the decedent was reported to the Northport Police Department as a missing person. During this time period, it rained for several days, which caused portions of the Colton Reserve to be flooded. On October 7th, 2021, the flooding receded to the point where Colton Reserve was hikeable again. On October 26th, 2021, at 1200 hours, I contacted the decedent's parents, Christopher and Roberta Laundrie, and explained the District 12 medical examiner's involvement. I directed Mr. and Mrs. Laundrie to contact the Northport Police Department and the FBI for further information in regards to the autopsy results and additional investigative information. Mr. and Mrs. Laundrie informed me that their son was very healthy and had no known medical history. The decedent did not take any medications and had no known primary care physician. He never went to a doctor? What? When I asked about the decedent's social history, Mr. and Mrs. Laundrie stated that they did not want to provide that information. What? Why? Okay. At 13:26 hours, sorry, I'm just like, what? At 13:26 hours, same date, I was contacted by Detective Keller, who advised that lead agent Bush from the FBI notified him that the firearm collected at the scene was evaluated. The firearm was a European American Arms 38 caliber special on barrel, .357 Magnum, the other side of the barrel, Based upon the markings and appearance, the firearm was a Windicator revolver. The cylinder contained 2 live rounds and 1 spent round of ammunition. Okay. Whoa. On November the 9th, 2021, at 1100 hours, Dr. Walsh-Haney returned to the decedent's remains to the office of the District 12 medical examiner. I photographed the reconstructed remains with a Nikon digital camera. On November 11th, 2021, at 10:30 hours, at the request of the FBI, 2 sections of femur bone and a tooth, a molar, were retained for DNA analysis. They were transported to the Pinellas County Forensic Laboratory and delivered by myself at 10:55 hours the same date. On November 19th, 2021, at 13:13 hours, I received a laboratory report, DNA analysis via electronic mail from Tina Jastrzemski of the Pinellas County Forensic Laboratory. The notification was a confirmation on the identity of the human skeletal remains on the case. The remains were identified as 23-year-old white male Brian Christopher Laundrie, date of birth 18th of November 1997. The notification was signed by Beth Ordman, DNA analyst. The above additional information was immediately provided to Dr. Vega and Dr. Broussard for further review. On November 22nd, 2021, at 9:40 hours, I contacted Lead Agent Bush and discussed the decedent's positive identification through DNA analysis. At 1200 hours, same date, I contacted Detective Keller and discussed the decedent's positive identification through DNA analysis. On November 23rd, 2021, at 12:50 hours, I contacted the decedent's parents, Christopher and Roberta Laundrie, and discussed their son's death certificate certification. Investigator Ronald L. Busby, Jr. Oh my word. Okay, so we keep it going. Brian Christopher Laundrie, same heading, so I'm going to keep going. Scene investigation. Date, 20th of October 2021. And the 21st of October. Location, Carlton Reserve, 6968 Reisterstown Road, Northport, Florida. Time arrived at the scene at 7:30 hours, 5:30 p.m. in the afternoon, and at 13:15 hours. Law enforcement agencies, Northport Police Department and the FBI. Lead investigators, Detective Keller of Northport Police Department, Special Agent Loretta Bush of the FBI. Initial information. The Northport Police Department contacted on-call investigator Ron Busby at 9:30 hours on October 20th, indicating that they believe that the remains of the missing individual, Brian Christopher Laundrie, had been found in an area where searches had been initiated several weeks prior. Reportedly in the morning hours, Northport Police Department had groups of personnel that discovered bones and personal belongings consistent with Brian C. Laundrie. The FBI Evidence Response Team, along with cadaver dogs and other search groups, were continuing to lay out the area where the remains were found. Our assistance was not requested at this point. Later in the day, at 16:05 hours, Investigator Busby was contacted to request our response to the scene. The remains were reportedly located at latitude 27.127698 north and longitude 82.192652 west inside the Carlton Reserve. We were told to meet at the Mayakahachi Creek Environmental Park. Upon arrival at the Mayakahachi Creek Environmental Park, police personnel transported us approximately 1 mile from the environmental park entrance into the Carlton Reserve, where the remains had been found. All right, observation of surrounding areas and remains. Observation of surroundings and remains. Day 1. The late afternoon is warm and dry. Oh, story time. We are transported from the park entrance to the scene above listed coordinates in an ATV, which ultimately headed in north-northeast direction for approximately a mile. The scene is a wooded, low-lying area with multiple patches of trees with underbrush mixed with some areas of open canopy. The ground is moderately dry, with lower areas having both damp and wet spots. Upon arrival at the scene, several tarps and canopies had been set up by law enforcement agencies. Oh, we remember that. We are briefed at the scene by Detective Keller of Northport Police Department, along with Kerry Harvey, the leader of the FBI Investigations Evidence Response Team. We are told upon arrival that the area where the remains had been located was previously under up to and possibly more than 3 feet of water for an extended period of time. Initially, the search area had been divided into a main scene above listed coordinates and secondary scene, generally 100 to 250 feet east of the main scene. Human remains, animal remains, and evidence had been marked with labeled flags for documentation. Adjacent to the main scene area, a small, currently dry stream bed with a slightly but noticeably deeper elevation is orientated in a general east-west direction. Walking the main scene area with Detective Keller disclosed human remains including the right and left scapula, right humerus, right femur, 2 tibia, 2 fibula, 2 clavicles, 2 pelvic bones, the sacrum, 1 right ulna, 1 right radius, and multiple ribs. Where's the patella, people? Where's the patella? There's always a patella somewhere. Also, multiple fragments of cranium and skull, along with a generally intact mandible with attached teeth, and the lower aspect of the maxilla with attached teeth are noted. Cervical, thoracic, and lumbar vertebrae are also located nearby. Within the main scene area, several personal effects are pointed out, including a pair of green shorts in the leaf debris around 20 feet south from the cranial fragments, as previously described, 2 slip-on shoes approximately 10 feet apart from each other, a white metal ring, and a short... What's the white metal ring about? A white metal ring? And a short barrel revolver gun with extensive rust and are noted on the ground near the previously described cranial fragments. Within 10 to 20 feet west of the larger cranial fragments is a green backpack. A green backpack with associated gear, including a tent and flares. So he was camping out there. And then probably saw all the media fuss, I don't know. The tent was still in the backpack and was not set up, pitched. Approximately 250 feet east in what was initially designated the secondary scene area, multiple animal bones are identified. A piece of paper and a red hat with the logo Moab Coffee Roasters are noted in the grassy area. Of all hats, oh my word. We are informed that an apparent dry bag was located in another area approximately 250 feet southwest of the main area, which contained a journal along with a wooden box that contained a small notebook and photographs. Some of the photos include Brian Laundrie. Prior to leaving the scene, arrangements are made for the human remains samples bags labeled HR1, HR3, HR2A, HR2B, HR4, HR5, and HR7 to be transported to the Sarasota Medical Examiner facility that night. HR1 contained the maxilla palate with 9 teeth, and HR2A contained the mandible with 15 teeth. These are to be examined as soon as arrangements can be made with our forensic odontologist for potential identification match. These evidence bags with the previously described labels are transported on 10/20/21 by investigator Kristen Kavanagh to the Sarasota Medical Examiner facility. I cleared the scene from the park entrance at 2000 hours. See separate case summary report for positive identification information. My word. Day 2. On 10/21/2021 at 13:15, I arrived back at the scene, parking at the Mayakachi Creek Environmental Park to be transported to the remains area. 15 minutes prior to my arrival, investigators Andrus, Walker, and Busby, along with the forensic anthropologist Dr. Heather Walsh-Haney and Dr. Miranda Kles, also arrived on scene. The forensic anthropologists were invited at our request for assistance in identification and collection of any further human remains. The FBI evidence response team has collected all bones identified the evening prior and labeled them into evidence bags after documenting, logging, and photographing each bone and or evidence collected. Evidence markers in bags designated as HR contain remains preliminarily identified as human. Team leader Harvey from the evidence response team advised that the initial main scene area, as discussed from the prior evening, has been divided into 3 zones, zones 1, 2, and 3. Okay, my voice better work with me. Don't you go anywhere now, we're busy with this. Zone 1 contained the remains, including those of the upper torso, right upper and both lower extremities and head. Zone 2 contained remains including several lower vertebrae and the sacrum, and Zone 3 had left upper extremity bones. A systematic research of all zones is conducted for additional human remains. In the north area of Zone 1, near the base of a large tree and the dry east-west orientated creek bed near where the majority of the bones were found, including the craniofacial bones, the handgun, and a white metal ring, a surface dig is done by the medical examiner investigators, forensic anthropologists, evidence response team members, and myself. Each zone is excavated to approximately 6 centimeters deep using trowels and shovels. All the leaf debris and excavated dirt were placed into 5-gallon plastic buckets and then sifted through 1/4-inch screens onto a large blue tarpaulin which was set up nearby. This process led to finding 9 additional cranial fragments, 2 upper central incisors, and 1 hand phalanx, all from Zone 1. These are added to the remains collected and logged earlier. At approximately 16:25, one of the members of the FBI evidence response team discovered a projectile with a metal detector approximately 50 to 60 feet south of the area where the skull fragments and handgun were initially located. This was in approximately 6 inches of dirt. Scene impression or actions taken. The remainder of the skeletal remains are inventoried by the FBI, packaged as evidence, released to the medical examiner, and transported back to the Mayakachi Creek Environmental Park area. From the park staging area, packaged bags from Scene 2, including HR6, HR103, with the exception of HR34 and HR35, which were confirmed as animal remains, are transported to the Sarasota Medical Examiner Facility by Rasota Services for further examination. The scene is consistent with skeletal remains of a single individual that appear consistent with a moderately young male. The cranial fragmentation and presence of a handgun are consistent with a gunshot injury to the head, or of the head. Full osteologic examination and cranial reconstruction will be performed to identify potential specific gunshot evidence. All non-human remains evidence is collected by the FBI for further workup or evaluation. Overall documented geographic evidence with data point location diagrams and reports are to be completed by the FBI. I cleared the scene at 7:45 from the park entrance. We can go through this little details that we find along the way slower at a later stage, but right now I'm just like, get it all in. This is what we've been waiting for, my word. Note, the foregoing is of a preliminary nature and subject to modifications pending additional information and or investigation. Wilson A. Broussard, Deputy Chief Medical Examiner. What? Okay. Report of the autopsy. Summary of autopsy or skeletal remain findings. 1. That's a 1, right? 1. ABC. Skeletal remains single individual. Scattered remains, bones without soft tissue, most with post-mortem scavenging or carnivore activity, near complete skeleton. Well. B. Positively identified with antemortem dental radiograph and record comparison. And C. Gunshot wound of the head with extensive associated craniofacial fractures. Toxicology. Please refer to the separate toxicology report. Cause of death, gunshot wound of the head. Manner of death, shot self with handgun. Okay then, page 2 of 6, general description. The skeletal remains are consistent with a young adult male. The vast majority of the skeleton has been recovered. The level of skeletonization is generally complete, but for minimal areas of adipocere-like white sheen on some of the vertebrae. No soft tissue remains, but for minimal partially calcified costal cartilage at the anterior aspects of some of the lower ribs. Multiple long bones, including bones of the arms and legs, all disclose carnivore predation activity characterized by gnawing and chewing, mostly on the distal ends of the long bones. The cranium is in multiple pieces and fragments, as will be described below. Most of the bones have dark discoloration consistent with dark soil material where the bones were recovered. Skeletal inventory. Bones are designated HR1, human remains, through HR103 as packaged by the evidence response team of the FBI. The only exceptions to a routine chronological numbering system are 1. There is an HR2A and HR2B designation, and HR34 and HR35 were initially designated as human remains but were later confirmed as non-human and kept by the FBI evidence response team at the recovery scene. HR81 and 82 are non-human remains, non-human ribs, confirmed as such during autopsy or skeletal survey examination. Okay, I'm just going to pause this for a second so you can read through this while I have a sip of water, okay? Okay, so we can see mandible with 15 teeth. Oh my goodness. Whoa, portion of frontal bone. Okay, left scapular, clavicle. Everything they've listed already. I'm just looking if there's a patella somewhere, because there just always is. Wow, they just about found his entire skeleton, huh? That's a lot different to what we learned before. Oh, my word. Wow. I would normally just read this all out, but I want to keep going. I want to keep going. So if you just want to pause that and read exactly what all these parts are, please do that. It's just listing all the bones. My word. Okay. Radiographs disclose no metallic fragments or densely radiopac material consistent with foreign bodies. In summary, the vast majority of the skeleton is recovered. Why did they want to tell us only a partial skull was found? Oh, that just makes me mad. The cranium is extensively fragmented, with the mandible generally intact and the lower aspect of the maxilla generally intact, each with some teeth present as described. Missing bones include 1 mandibular tooth, 5 maxillary teeth, up to 5 craniofacial bone fragments with a moderately large area of the left temporal, lower parietal and superior wing of the left sphenoid bone absent. Also absent are the hyoid bone and thyroid and cricoid cartilages. The xiphoid process is absent. The ethmoid and lacrimal bones are absent, as are both patella. Where are the patella? Those are kneecaps. And if you don't know what on earth I'm talking about, in all those true crime books I wrote, I'm like, there's always a patella. In so often when they come across human remains, it's like the only thing they find is either the mandible or the patella. And in this case, there's no patella? What? That just makes the case even more bizarre. Oh my word. Okay, for completeness and quantity of tarsals, metatarsals, phalanges, and all bones, please refer to the separate osteologic examination. Evidence of injury. As previously mentioned, skeletonization, total soft tissue decomposition, and moderate to extensive animal predation are noted. Most of the distal long bones have moderately extensive carnivore activity, evidenced by multiple gouging and gnawing marks. These areas are consistent with carnivores and or omnivores, including canines such as feral dogs and coyotes, along with rodents and raccoons. The cranium will be reconstructed for further evaluation, along with a full osteologic exam for more precise changes and examination. The extensive fragmentation with comminuted intersecting skull fractures is consistent with a gunshot wound of the head. Wow. Okay, post-reconstruction cranial examination. The cranial bones recovered, including 27 cranial fragments of various sizes, along with the mandible, have been reconstructed. 8 additional small fragments, thin sinus fragments, were not reconstructed. The reconstructed skull is near complete, having the majority of the major cranial bones, and creates a clear picture of perimortem trauma to be described below. Evidence of the injury. Perforating gunshot wound of the head. Sorry, I'm swallowing a lot because I'm just like, whoa, I don't know. It's just so hectic, oh my word. It's just like, this information. We're stuck with so little information where this all happened. I mean, this pretty much confirms, huh? Are you now, do you still think he's alive, some of you? I'm like, they found the whole damn skeleton. Except the patella. In summary, extensive fracturing, including comminuted and intersecting linear and basilar fractures with associated cranial fragmentation, is consistent with gunshot wound trauma. Evidence of a single perforating gunshot wound entering the left temporal cranium, and exiting the right middle inferior parietal cranium just above the temporal bone, squamous suture, is identified. Why would it be his left temporal cranium if he's right-handed? Wait, okay. Entering the left temporal cranium. It's a bit odd, hey? It's a bit odd if he's right-handed. The parents said he was right-handed. Okay, then. But on this day, he's shooting with his left hand? Anyway, the gunshot wound enters the left side of the head, causing an area of extensive fracturing where the majority of the left temporal bone is absent, along with extreme inferior aspects of the left parietal bone and portions of the posterior left sphenoid wing. A 5.5 by 5 centimeter area of bone defect absence is noted, with definitive circular or semicircular defect and or beveling due to bone absence. The presumed exact entrance point is centered in this defect and is estimated at approximately 5.8 centimeters below the top of the cranium, 5.5 centimeters above the left external auditory canal. Okay, and 6 centimeters left of the midline. The exit wound is located on the right middle inferior parietal bone, just above the apex of the temporal bone, and is measured 4.5 centimeters below the top of the cranium, 5.5 centimeters above. I find it weird how they're using centimeters in this, because you guys in the US don't use centimeters. So why this report is written this way, I don't know. I'm loving it, but like, why? Okay. I feel like converting all this for you guys, but I'm sure you can do that. Okay, so we get the gist of what happened, which also, remember all those other channels sharing nonsense about Brian being shot in the eye? Not so, according to this. That is why not to just buy into all the nonsense and just like, oh my word, here's his note. I mean, yeah, okay. If you believe that, I'm very sorry, but no. Okay, so the exit perforation is near circumferential, measures 11 to 12 millimeters in diameter in a table, and has clear outer table beveling. No gunfire associated bone discolorations, soot or lead pipe are noted. On the superior aspect of the exit wound is a 1 by 0.7 centimeter missing fragment of parietal bone. Therefore, the overall pathway or trajectory of the gunshot wound is left to right, very slightly upward, and having little to no significant front or back deviation. Associated fractures or descriptions. Associated with a gunshot wound are multiple linear intersecting fractures, including a 5 centimeter fracture from the entrance fracture defect to the superior left orbit, and a 19 centimeter linear fracture from the upper left sphenoid bone across the left frontal bone, across the coronal suture, and ends as it intersects a fracture at the medial posterior left parietal bone. Small radiating fractures emanating from the entrance defect are noted of the adjacent left parietal bone. A 17 centimeter linear fracture is noted of the upper posterior aspect of the entrance fracture defect, crossing the mid-parietal bones through the sagittal suture, and ultimately intersecting fractures associated with the exit defect on the right parietal bone. An 18 centimeter linear fracture intersects the above described 17 centimeter parietal fracture on the left mid-parietal area and continues medially and inferiorly through the lambdoidal suture, left of midline, ultimately to the medial basilar aspect of the left occipital bone. On the right side of the cranium, adjacent to the exit defect, are 3 centimeter to 5 centimeter radiating fractures above, posterior, and anterior to the perforation of the right inferior mid-parietal bone. 7. I know I didn't say all the numbers before. You're like, now she's saying 7. 7. A partly elevated 4.2 by 2.2 centimeter wedge fracture is adjacent and superior to a large linear fracture which intersects the posterior right squamous suture, crosses the mid-parietal bone, crosses the coronal suture, and ends near the right superior orbital area. Other fractures include 9.5 and 7.5 centimeter fractures of the right frontal bone, which communicate with previously described right parietal frontal fracture. The nasal bone is horizontally fractured, and a piece of the right sphenoid bone is absent. Whoa. Specimens: costochondral cartilage and a femoral bone segment with associated internal marrow are sent for potential toxicologic analysis. Femoral bone segments and a molar tooth are retained for law enforcement for potential DNA analysis. You mean comparison to a crime scene, For complete anthropological examination, please refer to the separate attached osteologic examination report. Ooh, toxicology results. Okay. Right. University of Florida Toxicology. Comprehensive drug screen. Bone, right proximal femur, substance, not applicable, none detected. Oh, okay. On the 4th of Feb, 2022. And a comprehensive drug screen, other, costal cartilage, not applicable, none detected. Wow. Okay. I don't know what I was expecting. I'm just like, what? Now, report of osteological examination. Date and mode of receipt of remains. On the 22nd of October 2021, I accepted receipt of these skeletal remains directly from the District 12 office at the medical examiner. At the request of the medical examiner, I conducted an osteological analysis of identification and trauma. All analysis were conducted within the secure laboratory space provided to me within the District 20 office of the medical examiner, 3838 Domestic Avenue, Naples, Florida, 34104. According to information provided by medical examiner personnel, this decedent was positively identified via dental comparison as Mr. Brian Laundrie, born 18th of November 1997. Can you imagine the conversations in these homes at night? And they're like, oh my word, this is actually Brian Laundrie, if they were watching the case at all, of course. Case narrative. At the request of the District 12 Medical Examiner's Office, I reported to the discovery location 6969 Reisterstown Road, Northport, Florida, 34286 on the 21st of October 2021 at approximately 1 p.m. Florida Gulf Coast University Human Identity and Trauma Analysis, HITA, Laboratory Coordinator Mickey David, MS, accompanied me. Upon my arrival, FBI Special Agent Loretta Bush escorted Miss David and I through the scene, highlighting the areas zones 1, 2, and 3, where human and possible non-human remains had been discovered and flagged. I identified the non-human skeletal remains, which were collected by the FBI. I reviewed in situ and specimen photographs of the human remains to create a preliminary skeletal inventory while at the scene. At my request, each zone was excavated to sterile soil, approximately 6 centimeters deep, using clean Marshalltown trowels, Fisker clippers, dustpans, and flat shovels. All of the leaf litter and soil was placed into clean 5-gallon buckets and sifted through quarter-inch screens onto a tarp, figures 1 and 2. This process led to the discovery of 9 cranial fragments, 2 maxillary central incisors, and 1 distal hand phalange. On the 20th, is it phalange or phalange? I don't know. Phalange. On the 22nd of October 2021, I attended the autopsy and assisted the medical examiner with a skeletal inventory. On the same day, I accepted receipt of these remains for subsequent analysis. Estimation of post-mortem interval. According to information provided by the medical examiner and law enforcement personnel, this decedent left his home on the 13th of September 2021. A missing person report was filed on the 17th of December 2021. Upon my initial examination, these remains were skeletonized and lacked the odor of decomposition. Small amounts of thin, dry cartilage were observed on many of the long bone joint surfaces, auricular surfaces of the ossa coxae and sacrum and vertebrae. Dry adipocere was observed on elements of the hands and feet. These observations inform my estimation of post-mortem interval. The post-mortem interval was estimated using a submerged remains equation following Heaton and colleagues 2010. With water temperature data from the Shackett Creek USGS station, mean water ME case number 2102238S, temperature 28.9 degrees Celsius, and a total aquatic decomposition score for these remains, TADS 8, the post-mortem interval was 47.4 days to 672.4 days, or approximately 1.5 months to nearly 2 years. Okay. I also calculated a post-mortem interval using the VAS 2011 equation for surface scattered remains. Okay, so nearly 2 years. It's like 5 weeks. Okay, moving right along. Using an average ambient temperature, 26.1 degrees Celsius, average humidity, 79.6%, and maximum decomposition score, the maximum post-mortem interval of 60.05 days was produced. These findings must be interpreted with caution because these studies have not been adequately tested in Florida. Skeletal inventory and minimum numbers of individuals. This individual was remarkably complete, Figure 3, Appendix B. The cranium was fragmentary and comprised 35 fragments. The cranium was reconstructed using Duco cement. Damn. Post-reconstruction, 8 cranial fragments ranging in size from 2 centimeters to 4 centimeters in maximum diameter from the sphenoid and orbital plate of the frontal could not be reattached. All of the remains present for analysis were morphologically consistent without irregular duplication. These were the remains of one individual, figure 3. In addition to the human skeletal remains that were analyzed, non-human remains were also recovered. Specifically, the incomplete skeletons of 2 Suscrofa boar and 1 Metapodial from Bos taurus, a cow or bull, were present. Okay, interesting. Age. Macroscopic analysis of these remains was conducted to estimate biological skeletal age at death. The following age-related changes were observed. All secondary centers of ossification were completely fused, which indicated that this decedent was an adult. The midline and lateral cranial sutures were evaluated following Mindel and Lovejoy, 1985. The method produced age ranges of 28 to 44 years and 20 to 42 years, mean age 31, for the midline and lateral sutures. The incisive suture was evaluated following Mann and colleagues, 1987, and consistent with an age of more than or equal to 25 years. He was 23, right? The morphology of the sternal end of the right fourth rib was consistent with Iscan and colleagues, 1984, stage 3, age range 24 to 28, mean age 26. The pubic symphysis was most similar to Sucky Brooks male, 1990, phase 2, age range 19 to 34 years, mean age 26.5. The auricular surfaces were most consistent with Lovejoy et al.'s 1985, stage 2, age range 25 to 29. Okay. Mean age 27 years. Okay, so transitional analysis was conducted using the analyses of the cranial sutures, pubic symphysis, and auricular surfaces. The program calculated an age range of 16.3 to 25.1 years. Okay. Point estimate 20.6 years corrected for white males. This finding was consistent with Mr. Brian Laundrie, who was 23 years old. Sex. Non-metric and metric analysis was conducted to estimate biological skeletal sex. The following male traits were observed on the cranium: large mastoid processes, blunt supraorbital margin, pronounced globular, well-developed nuchal region with inion hook, and robust mental eminence. The ossa coxae presented with the following male traits: narrow subpubic angle and greater sciatic notch, tall and narrow ilium, absent ventral arc, narrow pelvic inlet. Statistical analysis of these qualitative data estimated that these skeletal remains were male. Metric assessment supported the non-metric findings. Okay. And so the finding was consistent with the biological description of Mr. Brian Laundrie. Ancestry. Non-metric and metric analysis was conducted to estimate skeletal ancestry. The cranium presented with a long nasal spine, patent nasal sill, narrow nasal aperture, angled nasals, S-shaped zygomatico-maxillary sutures, Carabelli's cusp. Wow, guys, we are improving our vocab right here. Carabelli's cusps, anterior bulging transverse palatine sutures, and simple vault sutures. Statistical analysis of these qualitative data estimated that this decedent was white. Metric assessment of the cranium using 4-disc 3.1 supported the non-metric findings. This finding was consistent with the biological description of Mr. Brian Laundrie. Stature. Forensic stature was estimated using the 4-disc 3.1 and measurements of the radius, maximum length 264 mm, and ulna, maximum length 277 mm. The program calculated forensic stature for white male ancestry groups using a 95% confidence interval as 66.2 and 74.9 inches, or approximately 5'6" to 6'2". I'm just thinking of my height in inches. Interesting. This finding was consistent with the known biological description of Mr. Brian Laundrie, who was reportedly 5'8". Well, there we go. Now we finally have his freaking height. My word. Dental inventory and idiosyncratic traits. Gross radiographic and microscopic examination using a zoom stereo microscope was conducted to evaluate the dentition. Sorry, my voice is going. Hold on. Marked dental calculus was observed with the most severe form on teeth. Teeth 1 and 16 were impacted. Teeth 17 and 18 had small occlusal caries. Teeth 23 to 26 evidenced dental crowding. The central maxillary incisors, teeth 8 and 9, were labially displaced. Okay, teeth 4, 6, 7, 10, 11, and 29 were lost post-mortem. Ante-mortem pathological change. Gross radiographic and microscopic examination of the skeletal remains revealed the following ante-mortem pathological change. A Schmorl's node was observed on the superior body of T12. Accessory facets marked the spinous processes. Axial development defects were observed and included a bifurcated superior facet on C1, sternal aperture, and asymmetry of the first coccygeal segment. Axial development defects. We'll have to look into that. Asymmetry of the mandibular rami and condyles was observed. Am I doing well with all these biological terms? An axial developmental defect with the right mandibular ramus being approximately 12 millimeters shorter than the left. Very interesting. The right mandibular ramus being 12 millimeters shorter. The clavicles were asymmetrical, with the right being approximately 10 millimeters shorter than the left. The clavicular origin of the deltoideus muscle was more pronounced on the left than the right. Very interesting. Costal cartilage calcifications were observed on the right and left ribs. Perimortem trauma. Gross and radiographic analysis revealed perimortem gunshot trauma to the cranium that separated the neurocranium from the facial skeleton along the supraorbital margin. Radiating fractures were observed on most of the cranial bones. The fracture margins throughout the cranium were homogeneous in color. The frontal, left parietal, left temporal, and left superior wing of the sphenoid presented with extensive fracturing and loss of bone. The right parietal evidenced a near circular defect with focal radiating fractures and focal bone loss. The anterior to posterior maximum diameter of the defect was 12 millimeters as measured on the endocranial surface. Stellate fracturing traveled from the near circular defect and marked the right temporal, right greater wing of the sphenoid and frontal. The pneumatic bones of the cranial base, including the temporal petrous pyramids, basilar portions of the occipital, and bone of the sphenoid were fractured. Diastatic fractures marked the right frontozygomatic suture, right and left zygomaticotemporal sutures, transverse palatine suture, and left occipitotemporal suture. The post-mortem radiography did not reveal radio opacities consistent with bullet fragmentation. What? The post-mortem radiography did not reveal radio opacities consistent with bullet fragmentation. Taphonomy. Gross radiographic and microscopic examination using a zoom stereo microscope of the skeletal remains revealed taphonomic change. Specifically, post-mortem taphonomic change included evidence of carnivore scavenging, example, pits, punctures, and scoring, and rodent scavenging, example, parallel scoring damage. Post-mortem staining of the cortical and trabecular bone ranged in color from dark yellowish brown to reddish brown throughout these remains that was consistent with the tannic soils of water of the Mayakachi wetlands. Isolated patches of black and red discoloration consistent with fungi or mold was observed in the bones of the lower extremity. White coloration from adherent adipocere was also observed and consistent with decomposition in a wet environment. Summary. The forensic osteological analysis for medical examiner case 2102238S revealed that these skeletal remains were consistent with Mr. Brian Laundrie. Antemortem skeletal evidence included a Schmorl's node, accessory facets on the Spinius process, axial development defects, sternal foramen bifurcated C1 facet, asymmetrical mandibular rami and condyles, and coccyx, costal cartilage calcification, and asymmetrical clavicles. The cranium evidenced fracturing consistent with perimortem gunshot trauma. Post-mortem taphonomic change included evidence of scavenging and bone discoloration consistent with decomposition on the soils and within the waters of the Mayakachi wetlands. Whoa, attachment, appendices, and all this, which I think they said they took out. Oh, yeah, they're being blanked out, you see. The photographs in this appendix have been redacted in accordance with the Florida Statute 406-135. Therefore, they are not part of the public record. Okay, the report containing the photographs with Appendix A is on file at the District 12 Office of the Medical Examiner. So now we're going to see a whole lot of nothing. Let me sip water and get my voice back while we see a whole lot of nothing. I have been struggling with my voice lately. It's a thing. It's happening, but it's okay. Ooh, a table. Post-mortem interval, PMI, estimation in days. 28.9 degrees Celsius, using the Heaton and colleagues 2010 equation as applied to the medical examiner case 2102238S. Okay, so it was hot. I'm really confused why they're using the metric system. Very strange. But okay, humidity was high. It was hot as heck. Okay. Oh, quantity and completeness of skeletal elements associated with the medical examiner case. The word all indicates every bone on the line was represented by the completeness number. Look at that. So much. Just about his whole freaking skeleton was found there, man. Saying they found only partial skull. Why? Why did you do that? It's not like they have to tell us, but still, to release only partial skull, that just sent us all into a frenzy. Is that what they want? A media frenzy? Okay. So here's the whole list of all that, which I'm sure you can go through. Sex estimation logistic regression equations for Walker for the skull for medical examiner case. So everything we've just read, these are all the calculations. You see that? Whoa. Carnivore scavenging damage on the postcranial elements identified by skeletal element of the size of the punctures and pits associated with the medical examiner case. Oh dear. And here's the coloring. Slight adipocere throughout the remains. All these colors. Ooh. Scary stuff, man. Scary stuff. Now, what page are we on? Wow, okay. We're almost there. They're showing us all this. My word, you could really go all in and analyze all this if you really want to nerd out. I'm already nerding out by reading every page. I could tell you now, not many content creators are going to go through every page of this. Like the Moab police report, remember that? Oh, but that's what we do. The only thing I failed to finish was the Chris Watts discovery document. That's something I started and failed to finish. There were other content creators that did finish it, and that is why I linked them at the end of that when I just was like, I need to move on. Not because I didn't want to finish it. I just, my channel went in all sorts of directions. It just felt like it didn't make sense at that point to just be like launching Chris Watts stuff in the middle of all of this. Okay, I'm just looking at all these formulas now. What's going on here? I'm just going to nod along to this because I'm like, oh, lots of formulas going on. I'm going through it, though. I'm going through it like this so that we can all see. We're going through every page here. It's how they came to all these conclusions that we've just read. Literature cited. Okay, Appendix D, literature cited. Very nice, very nice. Pinellas County Forensic Lab. Okay, so item 1, manila envelope sealed with evidence tape containing item 1A, 1 specimen cup containing 1 tooth. And item B is 1 specimen cup containing 1 section of the left proximal femur bone, believed to be from Brian Laundrie. And item C, 1 specimen cup containing 1 section of the left distal femur bone, believed to be from Brian Laundrie. Whoa, look at that. Submission date, the 16th of November 2021. Item number 2, agency item 1, manila envelope sealed with evidence tape containing 1 swab carton containing 2 buccal swabs from Christopher Laundrie. Okay, and item number 3, manila envelope sealed with the evidence tape containing 1 swab carton containing 2 buccal swabs from Roberta Laundrie. Oh, they got swabbed, of course. I mean, of course they did. But now we know they got swabbed. And these are all resulted, look at that. Tooth resulted in a DNA profile. And then another tooth. DNA haplotype, DNA profile, haplotype, profile. Yep. DNA analysis of item 0018 tooth resulted in a profile of a male individual. DNA analysis results from item 1A tooth were compared to those results developed from item number 2, the swabs from Christopher Laundrie, and item 3, swabs from Roberta Laundrie. The DNA profile developed from item 001A, the tooth, is consistent with having originated from the biological child of item number 2 and item number 3. Okay, so they are both his biological parents. I know that was in question at some stage too. Remember? Was the dad the lawyer maybe? Huh? Is Bertolino the daddy? Well, no, here they say. The DNA profile from item 001 is 1.7 quintillion times more likely to be more likely in the Caucasian population if this DNA profile is from a biological child of item number 2 and item number 3 than if the DNA profile is from a randomly selected individual. 1.7 quintillion times more likely. Okay. The source of item 1A tooth is consistent with being a paternal male relative of item Christopher Laundrie swabs. Paternal male relatives share the same haplotype profile, barring any genetic mutations. Thus, the source of item 2, the swabs from Christopher Laundrie, cannot be excluded as the biological father of the source. The profile will be entered into the Combined DNA Index System, CODIS, in accordance with state and national regulations, where regular searches will be performed. By the way, I interject that I have signed up for Ancestry.com. I've done my little swab, my DNA analysis, and it's going to be out there soon. I don't know. I will share those results on Patreon. Yes, I'll probably make a video on it. So if you're interested in that, Patreon is available in the link below. Okay, so item 1B, section of the left proximal femur. Just reading quickly here, the DNA profile is consistent with the DNA profile obtained from item 1A, the tooth. Okay. The DNA profile developed from item 1B is consistent with having originated from the biological child of item number 2 from Christopher Laundrie swabs and Roberta Laundrie. So it's mom and dad, confirmed. Okay. And it's 3.9 quadrillion times more likely in the Caucasian population if this DNA profile is from the biological child of item 2 and item 3. Roberta and Christopher Laundrie. Other way around. Why do I say it that way around? It's Christopher and Roberta Laundrie. I'm not trying to rush through it. I'm just like, yeah. Okay, I need to calm down. I'm just like, oh my word. I mean, at some point I'll make a video highlighting everything we learned in this. And I'm just like, what? Okay. Why STR DNA analysis from item 1B, section of the left proximal femur, resulted in a partial haplotype. This haplotype is consistent with the haplotype obtained from item 1, the tooth. The source of item 1B is consistent with being a paternal male relative of Christopher Laundrie. Okay, and then they confirm everything we just read there. The section of the left distal femur. Everything was confirmed as Brian Laundrie's. Just confirming that. Analysis performed. Item 1A tooth. Prep filer. BTA. Contrio. Global filer. Okay, here are the dates. The 17th of November 2021. They were very busy there before Christmas, huh? Very busy in November. 17th and 18th of November. And there we can see on the 18th of November 2021, that's when Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie got swabbed. All items, including extracts, will be returned to the case or submitting agency for storage and final disposition. Extracts should be stored frozen. This report contains the results, interpretations, and/or opinions of the individual whose signature appears on the report. Some aspects of the analyses may have been conducted by other lab staff. This report should not be reproduced except in full without written approval of the laboratory. Okay, the results reflected on this report relate only to the items received and tested by the lab. Pinellas County Forensic Lab, Beth Ordman, DNA analyst. Wow. And now, where applicable, when the report reflects the determination of an unknown individual, all analyzed samples from known individuals submitted in conjunction with this case have been excluded from the DNA profile. Global filer STR analysis. DNA is extracted, quantitated, and amplified using the polymerase chain reaction. Okay, now they're telling us how they do all these tests. Of course, they have to tell us all this, right? I'm not going to go through all of this. They say, they're just going through the details of how they did it. Interesting. A notification report will be issued anytime there is a voice is going. Anyone else want to take the wheel for a bit? Oh, I should just put music on and be like, let you read it. Sure, I'll be okay. Don't worry. If you want to buy me a coffee, though, you can do that. buymeacoffee.com/Gisela K. I need that. It's the universe telling me, you talk too much, lady. You made too many videos. Okay, I've slowed it down a little bit. Thanks to editing. Love that. Love that. Love adding all the things. But this one won't be so edited. Of course not. I just want to get this out there. So, Nancy Havens, DDS forensic odontologist, received a text and email October 20th, 2021 at 11:36 a.m. from David Winterhalter, detective from the Office of the Medical Examiner District 12. The request: we may need your services in a case tomorrow. Are you available? I responded, yes, tomorrow morning. David called me later with an 8 a.m. scheduled time at the Sarasota Memorial Morgue location. Oh. District 12 Medical Examiner's Office supplied post-mortem evidence. Sockets open. Whoa. More details. Upper third molars present with limited eruption and positioned with mesial inclinations. Whoa. Okay, radiographs taken by David Winterhalter and myself. Pictures taken by Nancy L. Havens with a Nikon D100 digital camera. Very nice. Antemortem records supplied by Dr. Udishi Saval Family Dentistry. We know we're going to deep dive that. Just because we can. The patient's last visit with Dr. Udishi appears to be, from the chart notes supplied, 11/6/014. The patient was approximately 17 years old with adult dentition. They didn't go to doctors or dentists much, huh? So much for going for a dental checkup every year. Damn. There was fully erupted dentition 215 and 1732 and 116 molar impactation. What impactions? Orthodontic treatment was completed on the 2nd of the 12th, 2010, per a letter in patient's chart dated 2/12/2010 from Dr. Leon Kempner and David Ampham. Discussions of comparisons. There are several fully erupted teeth that had consistencies based on virgin teeth with root shapes that were identifiable on the radiographs taken post-mortem and compared with ante-mortem records. Distinct curve of mesial root towards the distal. Number 12, apical root has a slight curve. Okay, so now they're describing all the reasons why these teeth are a match. You know, I would read it all if my voice wasn't getting all. Slight overlapping of the anterior teeth on the post-mortem, but the shapes are similar to ante-mortem. This can happen after orthodontic treatment. Whoa, that's all in like capitals. if the individual does not consistently wear a retainer. Okay. Third, molars. Looking if there's anything worth saying now. Hold on 1 second. The consistencies are the 24 teeth present post-mortem to be compared with ante-mortem records. They are the distinctive features and the intact bone to compare root relationships, proximities, angulation, bone height, trabecular, and sinuses. Okay. Conclusion. The fact that the maxillae and mandible are intact, and I was able to make direct comparisons in this identification with x-rays and chart notes. There is a high degree of certainty this victim is Brian Laundrie. Thank goodness they tested all the other bones, right? The NCIC and my report are submitted by me, Nancy Havens, DDS, MBA. I am available anytime to discuss this case. All remains, x-rays, post-mortem, and ante-mortem, and photos are with the District 12 Medical Examiner's Office. Most sincerely, Nancy Havens, DDS, MBA, and a practicing dentist and forensic odontologist. It's a good time to end this video. That is now the final page. That's it. There's no more of this. It was page 47 of 47. If you like my effort at reading this whole thing to you, you know what to do. Give it a thumbs up. If you are not yet subscribed and you're like, my word, this lady reads the whole freaking document, I hope you'll subscribe. I do work my butt off for you guys. I do. Not gonna lie. I really do. So, hope you appreciate it. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you learned through all of this, because I'm like, what? Wow. Looking forward to reading your comments and hearing your thoughts. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. It's time for a nice soothing tea, is it not? Bye.